Hi everyone, welcome to Ethernal Realms and welcome to the month ahead astrology reading. Make sure you check your sun, moon, and rising signs for a comprehensive view of the month. Additionally, I would recommend watching the tarot reading of the month ahead to get a different perspective. While you will know the astrology in advance through this session, I will also send you a reminder when the astrological events are near. All you have to do is subscribe, hit the bell, and you will be notified as the events occur through my community page. I occasionally post behind the scenes, meditation guidance, quizzes, and polls, which you can check out for yourself. And it goes without saying that you will be notified when new videos are out, such as other zodiac readings and pick a card tarot readings as well. If you prefer to cut down the guesswork about your month ahead, you can always connect with me via Etsy to get a personalized week-by-week month ahead tarot reading paired with the general astrology. Enough about me, let's talk about you. So let's talk about the general overview of October. There's quite a lot of aspects going on this month, so let's break it down into what's the most important and then drill down into each of these aspects. So first thing to note is that we have a Libra solar eclipse, which is a time of the new moon at 21 degrees of Libra occurring on the 14th of the month. I've already made a separate video for the eclipses. There are fateful events. There are some major changes that can happen in the Libran part of your charts, and this is a time of major release in order to rebalance or find a level of fairness, justice, and equality within that Libra area of your chart. And next we have another eclipse, but this is a lunar eclipse. It's a time of a full moon and is occurring in Taurus at 5 degrees. This is occurring on the 28th of the month. So this month is full of eclipse energies. Both the new moon and the full moon events are eclipses, so it seems like a major turnaround. There can be certain curveballs, resolutions, and again letting go of certain things in order to find a rebalancing or evaluation, re-evaluation, revisiting of certain beliefs and conditioning and so on, which can help us down the line. This also I cover in my eclipse specific reading. I will just mention how this affects in your house, but there are a lot more details going into this that I talk about in that separate video. I would recommend you check it out for that. All right, now let's talk about the seasons. We have Libra season, and then later on the sun moves into Scorpio, and that brings us to Scorpio season. And Libra season is all about that, again, harmony. It's kind of that transition point, the midpoint, and like the equinoxes happened and we are now moving into the days becoming a little bit shorter, or you're trying to cultivate more peace, harmony, and communication with relationships and so on that come with that season. And with Scorpio season, we talk about purging, releasing, detoxifying ourselves, and also transforming ourselves for the better. Now, when the sun moves into Scorpio, which is on the 23rd of the month, we also have Mars already in Scorpio, and Mars moves into Scorpio on the 12th. So it's going to be quite an interesting one. It's deeper, darker, more mysterious. It has more of that research mindset, and it does not like to rest before finding the true answer. These are the basic themes that are going on. Meanwhile, the Libra season, we will have Mercury and Mars over there till half the month at least, and that itself is going to have this oomph of the activism and detoxing in order to compromise or to sacrifice certain things that are just like that they're not beneficial to growth or harmony anymore. It is more communicative because Mercury is present as well, and it wants to strive even harder than general to strike this sense of balance. Next thing to note is that we have 7 oppositions and 7 trines. And oppositions are all about me and you. They take into account feedbacks, decisions, and balancing. And all of the elements are being involved, so everyone is going to feel this to some level or the other. Then the 7 trines that we have, they are easy to take for granted. That's kind of the trine energy because they bring about automatic blessings and resolutions of things. And this month we generally are looking at water and earth trines. There is one fire trine, but it's mostly the feminine energies that we're talking about. So there is more receptivity that is going to be blessed, or it can be emotional and physical, material topics that are going to be blessed around this time. Now, trines also bring about harmony within anything that is ongoing as a struggle. Okay, now we have some planets changing signs and direction as well. We have Mercury moving into Libra on the 5th. We have Venus moving into Virgo on the 9th. We have Pluto going from retrograde to direct motion in the sign of Capricorn on the 11th. And this is an important date because this is a time that you can experience certain turnarounds and breakthroughs and transformations. So if you've been struggling with a specific fear or an insecurity or a sense of powerlessness, this can be a time where you recognize, oh wait, this is where I hold my power, or this is how I can call back my power, money, or I can transform myself to feel more like myself. And we have Mercury, who later moves into Scorpio on the 22nd. Now let's talk about the North Node. It has been quite activated throughout this month through trines, oppositions, and conjunctions. And the North Node represents where fate is intervening. And of course, we do have the eclipses, which engages that North Node. It's an orb of that. So we can expect some fateful interventions occurring throughout the month, sprinkled here and there. Different parts of the month will activate different zodiacs. We'll get into that in the zodiac specific part, but we can definitely expect some turnarounds. There can be purposeful developments as well, and there can be a desire to work towards purpose, almost exclusively towards purpose, at least in certain pockets of this month. It's important to take risks because the North Node is in the sign of Aries. So doing something that you're generally afraid of doing, that can be quite blessed. The opportunities will come in, and it's more so about rolling with them. For example, someone might need to learn to say no. Meanwhile, certain people may need to learn to say yes, and that's going to be subjective as to what the opportunity is. It'll be based on your personal experience. But yes, there will be this factor of it's scary for me to say yes to certain things, or it's scary for me to say no to certain things. So it's important to go forward with that area because you know that it is going to bring greater balance into your life. And you can know that because the North Node promises this greater fulfillment if we can push past that initial hurdle or that initial fear. Okay, so let's get into the specifics now. Okay, Sagittarians, let's talk about you guys for the month of October. I would suggest you watch the general overview, by the way, because I talk just in general what the vibe is. And we're just going to go very sequentially this time, unlike with September, where I did separate storylines. We don't have many repeating patterns, so we're just going to go at them one by one. So on the 2nd, we have an opposition between Mercury and Neptune. Mercury is in Virgo, which is in your 10th house of career, profession, ambition, and goals. And Neptune is in that 4th house of yours and is retrograde. The 4th house talks about your home and family, your ancestry, lineage, as well as your personal inner self and your personal needs as well. So with this opposition, there can be a little bit of this push and pull dynamic between how much time you're spending at home and how much time you're spending outside. You're more likely to have some documentation work or some contracts or something like that going on in the outside world, something external coming in. You might be thinking about what your routine should be, maybe scheduling yourself lighter or better or making yourself more flexible, but you might not yet know how you can do that. There is something unclear about all of this. There could be a temporary distraction that comes about, or something you think about that may not be a thing in the far future. So you're looking at what are my ideals and my current priorities, as well as are my responsibilities stagnant for some time, or at least steady in some way. And if not, then how can I better manage my time and attention with the people I care about, with myself, as well as the duties I have outside. Now, this is a very short-lived transit, so even if it feels a little bit confusing and blurry, things are going to become more clear in the preceding days. On the 3rd, we have a trine between Mercury in Virgo with Pluto in Capricorn, and Pluto is retrograde at this time. And again, Mercury is in that 10th house of yours that we just talked about, and Capricorn is the 2nd house of yours, which is about self-worth, values, priorities, as well as your personal finances. So you're looking at, are you being fairly compensated for the work that you're doing or the services that you're providing to others in terms of finances, or are you getting enough flexibility, recognition, things that are more important for you? And with the trine here, it indicates that there is some type of breakthrough, perhaps a beneficial conversation that shows you promise for the future, that things are going to change for you, and therefore bring you a greater sense of empowerment, personal authority as well. Same day, we have another trine between Venus and Leo with the North Node in Aries. Now, both of these are fire signs just like you, so this is going to be forming a grand trine in terms of its effects to your sign. So Leo is in that 9th house, and that house is all about your philosophy, belief system, religion, spirituality, your big picture plans, and all of that. And Aries falls in your 5th house of self-expression, creativity, love, romance, and dating, as well as children and inner child. So there can be some type of personal expansion that you're experiencing at this time. You might feel extra liberated, inspired, ready to kind of take on the world, showcase your skills, travel abroad, or study abroad even, in order to develop certain things that you're very passionate about at this time. On the 5th, we have Mercury moving into Libra, which is falling in your 11th house. It's a very social house, so you might find yourself having a lot of phone calls, getting into some groups and networks which you are feeling called to. There can be some back and forth discussions and debates which can be quite witty as well. All in all, it is trying to find a better balance and inspiration for you by coming into this house. Now, the 11th house also talks about your ideals and your aspirations. So you might be looking at, certain plans you might have made with a partner or a close friend. You're like, yes, that really aligns with my ambitions for the future, or it does not align with my aspirations. So what can be adjusted here? What action can be taken so that this relationship is back into harmony with also the goals that I have? Same day, we have an opposition between Mars in Libra with North Node in Aries. So again, that highlights your 11th and the 5th houses, and it talks about, okay, so this is something I'm very passionate about, but I'm shy to show it outside, or I don't know, is it too raw, is it too passionate, or something like that can be a situation here. And there can also be a sort of passive-aggressive type of encounter you might have that kind of rubs you the wrong way at this time, and you want to have that open and honest conversation around this time. Mars in Libra can be a little bit suppressed. It wants to say something very directly, being Martian, but in the sign of Libra, it wants to dull the blow a little bit, so it comes across passive aggressive if it's not done very well. On the flip side, it's a natural peacemaker, natural diplomat, and if you have a worthy cause that you're very passionate about, this is a time where you're practicing that activism side of you. Just be watchful that you're balancing things out by just doing something light, carefree, and playful as well. Even if that might not be on the top of your mood at this time, it is recommended you do so, because otherwise the opposition kind of goes off kilter. It either concentrates on one side of the spectrum, or it's kind of feeling torn on both sides, like I want to do this but I can't do this because I have these other responsibilities and I don't know what to do. That can be a situation, so moderation is key. On the 9th, we have Venus moving into Virgo from Leo. So now it is going to be at a square aspect to your zodiac and is affecting that 10th house of yours. It's a very important one whenever any planet or aspects happen across the 1st and 7th or the 4th and 10th. And all of these houses are kind of the pivotal parts of our lives. So with Venus moving over here, you're likely going to be looking at things a little bit differently with your workspace. You might be wanting to beautify your workspace, for example, or you want to present yourself differently. You come across more devoted and professional as well. You might have this perfectionistic streak too. Just watch out for over perfectionism. That is the risk with anything Virgo, but they are just trying to get to the best solution possible. So it's not really a bad thing, honestly. honestly. You are also going to be quite, grounded at this time as well. You might want to connect with people who are realistic, and you want to be like you don't want to be like freaking out at this time, and others might find you very calming and comforting as well to be around. You are serious about what you do, you take your responsibilities seriously, but at the same time you're not taking it too seriously, so that's awesome. Same day we have a square between Mars in Libra, your 11th house, with Pluto in Capricorn, who's retrograde in your second house. So again, you're looking at how you're making your finances, or how you've organized your priorities, and is that taking you towards your long-term visions. It can even be that some of your friends are going through some difficulties with regards to their home and family situation that they might need some help from you about, but you might be in a bit of a powerless position, like you don't know what to say, or the help that you have to offer might not be the help that they're needing because they just need to go through it themselves, or something's going on behind the scenes and you're just not aware of this situation, so you don't know how to help, right? And you don't want to bring up some sensitive topics for them, so there might be a little bit dodging around the real talk over here, even though there is a desire to take action and care for something. On the 10th, we have an opposition between Venus in Virgo with Saturn in Pisces, and yes, this is again an opposition between your 10th and 4th houses. So how do you split your time, focus, and energy with yourself and with your home and family members, and also at work, ambitions and responsibilities that you have outside? You might find that you are finding your professional goals and sphere quite enjoyable at this time, that you might have to restructure things at the home so you don't have to be present there all the time. So let's say you have to care for someone who's a little bit elderly, you might want to go for a nurse that can help you out through this, so that you can go out, fulfill your ambitions and goals. And ultimately it's all going to again impact your family situation, right? With oppositions, it's not like you can run away from one side because they're inherently connected to each other. So you going out, fulfilling your goals and ambitions might be the way to help your family the best, but for the time being you might need to come up with a temporary structure or solution at this time. Now, different example, it can be that you have certain goals and you're not on that path at this time, and you're looking at, okay, what habits do I need to change, or how can I change my perspective, how do I manifest this new vision that I have for myself, and you're kind of putting that into practice beyond this point. Now, on the 11th, Pluto goes direct, and I really love this one because whenever it does that, it brings about some aha moments, some epiphanies as well, and it's long-term changes because it's a far-off planet. It creates these, big momentums as well. So it's like a big shift in perspective of, this is how I've been managing my finances, and this is what I considered a big priority for myself up till now, but now that I think about it, I think I would rather spend on eating at home, making a very nice lavish dinner at home rather than eating outside or something like that, right? That was a silly example, but you get my point. It can be finances, can be priorities, and also all these things are geared towards your long-term goals and ambitions. On the 12th, we have Mars moving into Scorpio. Mars rules Scorpio, and that falls in your 12th house. And the 12th house is highly hidden and abstract. It's quite esoteric and spiritual as well. So while you may not generally resonate with being very intense and raw like Scorpio, this is a time where you might find yourself having intense and raw feelings. So you want to contemplate a little bit, or you want to go away and think about things a little bit deeper and things of that nature. And your season is about to come soon. So all of these work that's going on in the background are going to be quite pivotal in how you operate when Sagittarius season comes about. This is also in the 12th house. It's sort of like your inherent talents. It's so inherent that you don't even think about it, right? It's so unconscious, it just automatically happens. So over here, it is showcasing how much impact you really have in your own life and in the people's lives around you. Okay, so you might be coming into awareness of the power you hold. And Scorpio is all about that power of regeneration, transformation, authority over a space. And you are also likely going to do really great if you are trying to manifest something. Scorpio is all about that connectedness with the psychic realms. So if you're doing something otherworldly, let's say, it might work in your favor here. Just watch out that you're not, tiring yourself out too much, because Mars can get a little bit too overexcited when it's in its rulership. So it can be that, okay, let's do everything intense right away, but then it can also be draining if you keep on doing that, right? So balance it out. Now that on the 13th, we have Mars trining with Saturn. I really like this one as well. Now, Saturn is retrograde in your 4th house and Mars is in that 12th house. These are your personal houses. People are not likely to see this out front. It's not going to be like you're changing your makeup or hair or something like that, right? It's more how you're feeling and how do you deal with your feelings. If you're going through some personal issues at home, then how do you deal with the effects that it has on you? There can be certain revelations or recognitions you have with regards to certain ancestral patterns that are being repeated, and it might be too big or too abstract for you to talk about it yet, but just the awareness of it can be quite revelatory, kind of brings you a sense of peace or resolution, and it's like, well, that's a relief, so I'm not crazy then. So it is something like that, right? So sometimes just knowing that much is enough, and then we can go ahead and see what we can do about it based on individual situations. But Saturn being a part of this whole equation gives the impression that this is going to be like a long-term resolution or a goal. It can help you change certain structures as well, which are holding you stuck. So you don't have to keep repeating the same patterns as your family has been exhibiting. Neither does your family have to keep repeating that. It even indicates that you have more control and more say about what you are feeling and how you are demonstrating that. On the 14th, we have a new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Libra, and that falls in your 11th house, that social house of networking, your finances through your business as well, your friendship circle, your aspirations and hopes and ideals too. So there can be some big fateful changes that your friends are going through over here, or that ideals you had are about to change or go through a little bit of a transformation. You might be letting go of certain things you thought were, your one and only bucket list item, like that must be completed, right? Because the South Node is here, and wherever the South Node goes, there needs to be a release and surrender moment. All right. Some of you, not all, this is not a very commonplace thing to happen, I think, but you might be letting go of certain friendships as well, or at least friendship circles. Let's say you're changing your organization, then of course you're not going to be talking with the same groups of people. So something like that can also be a thing. Now, this is going to play out over the coming 4 to 6 months. It's a big fateful event. We can't really expect each and everything that might happen. It's very individual and is kind of customized to what each person needs at this time. I talk at greater length about the other facets of this eclipse in the eclipse dedicated video, and I also get into what that means for your sign of Sagittarius along with the other zodiacs as well. So I would recommend you check it out. On the 18th, 19th, 20th, and the 21st, we have this mini story going on, so I'm just going to talk about them in a sequence. On the 18th, we have a meeting, let's say, between the Sun and the North Node. Now, the Sun talks about where is our focus and conscious effort and drive. And now the North Node talks about what the universe needs from us, where the fate is intervening, and what is destiny saying, essentially. Okay, where are we being pulled? Where is that purpose? It can be uncomfortable, but you know that it's going to lead to a lot of great things. Okay, so the Sun is like, okay, so what does Sagittarius need to know at this time, and what needs to be done moving forward? What's the vision for the next step and all of that? And the North Node is kind of informing the Sun that, okay, this is what's going to happen. On the 19th, similar situation, but instead of the Sun, we have Mercury. So now we're discussing what needs to happen according to the vision that has already been discussed. And this is where, again, the North Node is instructing. On the 20th, then, the Sun and Mercury are meeting. They're having their own separate meeting over here. And they're like, okay, so this is what we discussed with the North Node. Let's join forces and see what we can do about this whole situation. Now, this can be a time where you feel a sense of revival and awakening, kind of a clarity of thoughts as well. So if you've been feeling a little bit indecisive about something, on the 20th is likely when you find some resolution. Now, the action happens on the 21st. We know all of these great things. Bravo. What do we do about that? Let's put that into action, right? So on the 21st, when both of these planets square with Pluto is now direct, by the way. That's an important piece of information there. We are taking power into our own hands, and we're not like, oh, boo-hoo, what are we going to do about this? We can't help ourselves. We can't help our friends or whatever. Now we're like, look, buddy, you need help. Here is the help. Take it, please, please. It's going to help you, right? Or it can be that I can't keep avoiding my aspirations anymore, and I just need to take action right away. Then on the 22nd, we have Mercury moving into Scorpio, which is your 12th house. So again, it takes on a little bit of that introspective role once more. You're more research oriented. You might be looking at your sleep routine or nightly routines, and you're looking at what needs to change, what needs to go. Maybe your needs are shifting and changing. If you have been needing only 6 hours of sleep before, perhaps you're needing 7 or 8 even. So you kind of moving things around to make space for that. Just lean into it, because this is the house of sort of like connecting with your deeper self. Even some self-care comes in here in some of the other means here. And when you rest, you're able to rejuvenate your soul as well, which kind of fuels you up with energy for the next day. So I think you're caring for yourself a little bit more. You're not trying to avoid difficult emotions. I would recommend not to avoid, honestly, with Scorpio, because Scorpios just don't work like that. Wherever they are in the chart, that's a very intense sign, and it does not like to brush things under the surface. So Mercury coming here is that automatic intelligence that gets awakened here, of looking underneath the surface and understanding what's underneath, rather than being puzzled with what's this whole madness, right? Same day, we have a trine between Mercury and Saturn, and again, that's the 4th and the 12th house for you. Very personal, very deep, and quite pivotal as well. Long-term changes and restructuring that's happening here. Good ideas, long-term commitments can be made in some or the other way, depending on your situation again. But yes, that can leave everybody feeling a little bit happier and as if things have been resolved. Same day, we have another trine between Venus and Virgo, with Jupiter in Taurus, and Jupiter is retrograde. Virgo falls in that 10th house of yours. We've talked about this. And Jupiter in Taurus falls in your 6th house of day-to-day lifestyle, routines, and the way that you come to service. So while your 10th house is your profession, the 6th house is your occupation. So what's your role in the everyday life, right? So over here, it can be about getting some compliments from your employers or employees, okay, depending on which side of the spectrum you're on. And it can also talk about kind of going over certain routines that you have already set in the past. So you're seeing how you've already done something, and you can actually translate those skills into your current job or current project that you're working on. It can be that you have good relationships with authorities as well, and some things that you've learned or gathered experience with is really helping you out at this time. On the 23rd, the sun moves into Scorpio, and we have Scorpio season. So this is officially when all of that introspective purging, cleansing time happens more actively. Okay, prior to this point, maybe you're like intending, you're taking some action, you're promising yourself and all of that. But 23rd is when you're like, okay, I'm not going to distract myself anymore. I'm just going to buckle down and get on it. Okay, so if there is some self-work you want to be doing, or some healing you're hoping for, any breakthroughs in your healing journey, or your connection with your soul, with the spiritual side of things, 23rd onwards is when you can really do that. On the 24th, we have another trine between the sun and Saturn, same houses, the 4th and the 12th. And again, this is about revealing all these thoughts that have been going on and the actions that have been going on. It might have felt a little bit in the background, and you don't quite know, like, what does that mean for you? So who are you now? What does that mean in the context of your personal life? So with the sun coming there, it kind of puts everything together, and it's a nice wholesome picture of this is what's happening, this is where we're going, and all of that, right? On the 28th, we have a full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus, and that's your 6th house. There can be some major changes, pivotal changes, fateful changes as well that occur with regards to this area. Now, this is not something very new to you. You've been dealing with this for the past 1.5 years, but this is going to be the grand finale. It's going to give you that last piece of information or resource, or that help from your mentor or employer, or even employee, and also make certain like lifestyle changes and shifts into your routines and all of that, to kind of put you on that path for whatever's coming up next. I talk again at greater length about this in that eclipse dedicated video, because it's even though it's a Taurus eclipse, there's a lot of planets going on in Scorpio, which is right opposite that sign. So we're going to have to take a look at this in a different perspective, but I do that in the other reading. The same day, though, on the 28th, we have Mars in Scorpio, right opposite Jupiter in Taurus, and Jupiter is retrograde. Again, it's looking at, work-life balance. So it's not like how much time you're spending at home necessarily, but it's how are you connecting with yourself, right? Do you rest enough? Are you caring for yourself enough? What are your routines, exercises, diet, things like that? Which are your priorities? How are you splitting them? It can even be about intimacy. How deeply are you connecting with your partner as well after your, time in the active world is done? So you're like winding down, being with your partner, talking, or like meditating, resting, whatever it is. How are you maintaining that sense of intimacy and sensuality in your life? On the 29th, we have Mercury opposite Jupiter, and again, the same houses, same axis coming about. And this again can be more active thinking of, I have to really think about this. I didn't think about it. A different scenario could come up here, and you're like, okay, how can I arrange things around this new situation coming up, or this old situation that is cropping up again, things of that nature. With oppositions, we want to try to find that balance. Moderation is important. We can't do like one thing too much. So only thinking very deeply and introspecting is not going to do us any favors if we don't implement them in our day-to-day life. But only implementing things and carrying on things that or like habits that have been ongoing without changing anything or without reflecting on how that is affecting us also is not going to help us out in the long run. So we're looking at how to do both in equal measure. And just be watchful, because with Mars opposite Jupiter, there can be overdoing things. And with Mercury opposite Jupiter, there can be overpromising things. Okay, so that's the shadow side. On the 29th, we have Mercury conjunct with Mars, and that is in the sign of Scorpio, again in your 12th house. So all of these thoughts that are going on around the 28th and the 29th, they kind of come into a culmination of sorts, and you are kind of understanding that, okay, well, I'm very passionate about this. I would like to change my habits in this way, or I would like to incorporate more of the spiritual modalities that I'm so interested in into my everyday life. So how can I do that? There can be some strategies and research that is going into all of this to make it happen. On the 31st, we have a trine between Venus and Uranus. Now this again is affecting your 10th and your 6th houses, and Uranus is retrograde at this time, so there are no new shocks and surprises with this one, but it is about working through the changes that you've already experienced in the past couple months and making the best out of it. Okay, so you might be, let's say when you first started this new job, it was a little bit of an adjustment period. You had to learn the work, you have to get to know your coworkers, your employers, and kind of understand this new routine and all of that. But at this point, you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm actually liking it. It is helping me achieve some of my other goals that I had not gone out to achieve consciously, but it so happens, so I'm happy, something like that. It's a trine, so you're happy with the outcome. It can also bring you some opportunities for growth as well. Something that could have been already promised or kind of in the pipeline from before, but like coming about at this time. So that's what I have for you. Thank you for being here. I really hope you enjoyed and that the messages help you out throughout the month. Stay tuned for the tarot reading. I will be uploading them soon. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified whenever that's up. And if you enjoyed the reading, please do like and comment your thoughts if you have any. It will be really lovely to hear back from you, and it really helps the channel grow as well. I will see you some other time. Until then, take care. Bye.